Welcome to video number 5 in Learning C++. We're going to do an assignment in this video, so be prepared to pause after I describe the assignment. Suppose you have an ordered set of numbers, such as I have on the screen here, and your task is to write a program that sorts these numbers from least to greatest. Think about how you might solve that problem. Pause the video now and come back once you have thought of your solution. Okay, so I will describe one potential solution and yours could be just as valid or better. Let's write some pseudocode to describe how this might work. So, in plain English, I'm going to trickle the greater values towards the end of the list, one at a time, until all the values are in order. And the way I can do this is by looking at pairs of values, and if they're out of order, swapping their positions. So, how might we do this with the structures that we know? Well, let's say that we are trying to get the greatest value to the end of the list, and then the next greatest value to the end of the list before the greater one, all the way until we're at the first value. So, for each last position, let's call that I. We want to loop through the rest of the list and move the greater value up to the last position. So, for each position before I, call that one J. If element J and element J plus 1 are out of order, then swap elements J and J plus 1. So let's see why this works. So, choose the last position. That will be this position. I'll mark it with an I. And we're going to start at the beginning position and mark it with a J. And for convenience, I'll mark J plus 1. So, we compare elements J and J plus 1, noting that at the top we should have the lower value. In this case, we don't, so we actually swap them around. Now we continue and do the same comparison here, finding we also want to swap these. That is not true of these two. However, it is true of these two. Not true of these two. True of these two. and true of these two. So as you can see, the larger value, 42, has trickled all the way to the bottom of the list, but the whole list is not sorted yet. That's why we have the outer for loop, where we move I backwards and start again. Let's look at actual code for this example. So as you can see, I've used an array to hold the sequence of numbers. My outer for loop begins at element not element 8, but at value 8, and loops all the way down to value before 0. The inner loop loops from 0 up to the boundary and does a comparison. Now, because we want j to be less than j plus 1, the comparison for out of order is going to be greater than. This code simply uses a temporary variable to swap the values j and j plus 1. And at the end, we print out the values to show that they've been sorted. Let's test this program. So as you can see, the output shows the values in sorted order. In the next video, we will discuss strings and do a related assignment.